Radio.
Indicator of economic growth is what's going on in the construction business. You might recall in the latest JOLTS job opening survey, included among the findings were layoffs jumping to the highest level since December 2020, led by construction and a few other sectors. Our next guest is steeped in the construction industry. Cheryl McKissick Daniel is president and CEO at McKissick, a family-owned design and construction firm for more than 118 years and the oldest minority-owned construction company in the nation. Bloomberg's Matt Miller and I spoke with Cheryl about the business and her family history.
I stand on the shoulders of 4 other generations. And so, I feel like I'm winning before I get started. For them to navigate this country of ours, this great country of ours for 5 generations is an amazing thing. And so I feel honored, I feel blessed, and I feel as though I have a mission to keep this company going, especially in New York City.
So how are you doing in that mission right now? How is business at McKissick?
Business is booming. New York just passed a $322 billion budget, and a lot of that is capital work throughout the state. And then, of course, we have a significantly large budget for the city of New York. So there is plenty of work for McKissick. Corporations are working or have large capital programs. I think the only area where we're seeing some slippage is with our developers with respect to residential and office space. I think the interest rates are affecting their ability to make these deals work. And then we also need to deal with our affordable housing. We need to get something in place where we can get some assistance from our government for affordable housing so we can make those projects work as well.
Cheryl, take a step back. Let's go to office, because we certainly are just trying to figure out if that's the next shoe to drop. And we've been thinking a lot about the nervousness that continues, certainly among the regional banks. There's still questions. So office space, how would you describe it? And you guys really work within the state of New York, correct?
We're in New York, we're in Philadelphia, Orlando, and now Nashville. And, office space right now has dwindled, as we know, as a result of COVID. If we just take my hometown, Nashville, Tennessee, where Amazon just finished a beautiful, mid-rise building. There's nobody in it. People do not want to come to work the way they used to. A lot of people want to work remotely. We, in Nashville, we're trying to renovate or develop a building that my grandfather built in 1924. And I was just on the phone with a prominent developer on Saturday saying, okay, can we make it office space? And the answer is absolutely not. You can't get a loan from banks for office space. From my understanding, a lot of the banks that are failing are the banks that, lent money on, office space construction. And so, it is in a crisis right now. I don't see, and from what I can tell, how we're going to recover with the office space without doing maybe some conversions.
Yeah,
the housing is a big issue. Yeah, conversions. Housing is a big issue in New York. As we know, we need over 800,000 units of affordable housing. Housing is an issue in most urban cities. And so, maybe that's the answer.
But a bunch of developers I talked with at Milken last week, they said, how do you take those buildings that are in Midtown, old buildings, they're just not, the idea of converting them into housing, it just doesn't make sense. You really need to knock them down. But then there's the problems and issues where the exteriors, are old and wonderful and nobody wants to mess them up. So it's complicated, and converting isn't so easy, or creating conversions.
Carol, is this good news for McKissick? I mean, can you guys do conversions, or can you go to places where we knock down buildings and put up new ones? Is this great news?
We absolutely can. I mean, any construction project that's vertical, we are happy to participate in. I can't say it's great news for the private industry, because we still need our developers to be able to borrow money at a good interest rate so the deal makes sense for them. And so that's a concern for our industry right
now. So how much has it slowed down? Is it a crisis situation in terms of what you've seen slow down in terms of development? And what tier of the market are you talking? Is it level, top-tier properties? Is it, like, what is it?
So, so at McKissick, the majority of our work is with large institutions and government.
Right.
So we work for the higher ed, K through 12, you know.
Like the Columbia Business School, right, uptown?
Columbia Business School, Lehman College, hospitals, you know, Coney Island. So those projects are moving along. You know, the MTA looks like, you know, their capital program is going to be whole. And so that is the bulk of McKissick's work. We're not really working for private developers building residential or office space, but I can only talk to you about what my colleagues are telling me that are in that area. And they're telling me that their projects are slipping out to the point that, you know, they're carrying staff in hopes that a project's going to start in 6 months. But what if it doesn't? What if it gets, you know, trashed completely because the interest rates are still a problem? You know, there are companies in New York who have gone out of business in the last 2 months just around that issue.
Yeah.
Because they've helped staff, you know.
You basically, at McKissick, you have the dream product mix then. You want to be in hospitals. You want to be in universities. You want to be in, you know, federal government projects because they get credit.
Airports.
Exactly. But your colleagues that are in other sectors, they're not able to get loans, or if they are, the loans are just unaffordably expensive, is what you're saying.
Well, yes, right. And as a result, the builders for those developers, you know, what do they do with their staff? Because the way we win our work is by having competent staff to, you know, implement, you know, whatever project that we're going after. And, you know, staff, again, is hard to find. So you can't let a key staff person go. You have to hold on to them in hopes that the project is going to start. And so I'm seeing that across the board with these construction firms that work for private developers that are in the office space or residential space.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot in terms of the labor market, that builders just don't have the people that they need. As a result, is that still putting pressure on costs?
Yeah, well, development costs, everything's going up because the supply chain is a problem. Yes. You know, there are contractors who have contingencies just based on supply chain issues and the cost that might, you know, result as, you know, because you can't get switch gear or any other kind of product in a, you know, reasonable amount of time. And as you know, time is money. And so you want to make sure, you know, you cover yourself if you have to wait on a supply chain. So, yeah, those issues are still out there.
That was Cheryl McKissick Daniel, President and CEO of McKissick, with me and Matt Miller. Still ahead on Bloomberg Business Week, Palantir is on track for its first ever profitable year thanks to its prowess in artificial intelligence.
Generative AI is an extremely powerful new technology. One way to think about it is we have finally built a technology that understands that is fluent in human languages. This is kind of wild, and we weren't expecting it. It can be used for all kinds of purposes.
Where the data analysis company goes from here and who it's going up against in the race for AI supremacy. This is Bloomberg.
Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. This is New York's only 24-hour source for breaking business news and market-moving headlines. Bloomberg 1130. Now, a global news update.
The U.S. is increasing its defense in the Persian Gulf following news that Iran seized 2 merchant ships in the Gulf. According to National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, the Department of Defense will move to boost its defensive posture in the Middle East Gulf, including the Strait of Hormuz. Kirby says there's simply no justification for Iran to interfere with merchant ships. 2 police officers who took down a school shooter in Nashville will receive national recognition. Officers Rex Engelbert and Michael Colazzo will be presented the National Award of Valor by the National Association of School Resource Officers. The award honors those for acts of courage above and beyond what's expected. General Motors announcing the recall of nearly 1 million vehicles due to faulty airbags. The recall includes Buick Enclave, Chevrolet Traverse, and GMC Acadia vehicles from 2014 through 2017 with airbags produced by ARC Automotive. Federal regulators are urging ARC to announce a full recall of 67 million of their airbag inflators. I'm Brad Seifert.
And I'm Scott Carr. In the Bloomberg newsroom, among the stories we're watching this morning, the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, now is warning the U.S. debt ceiling impasse poses a serious risk for the global economy. Following today's Group of 7 meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors in Japan, Hunt said the U.S. is one of the biggest motors of the global economy and that it would be devastating if the U.S. GDP was knocked off track by a failure to reach an agreement. In addressing the issue Friday with Bloomberg Television, the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, was pressed on whether the assumption of many participants that in case of a default that the Treasury would prioritize payments of interest and principal on Treasury securities was accurate. The presumption based on discussions between the Fed and Treasury officials during the 2011 debt limit showdown when Yellen was vice chair of the Fed. Yellen tells Bloomberg such a plan was never presented to the president and never approved, that her department's working full-time with Congress now to raise the debt ceiling, and that's their focus.
There is no satisfactory solution for the United States. A solution that will be good for the economy and financial markets other than Congress acting to raise the debt ceiling. There are potential different paths that could be taken if that doesn't happen, but there is not a single thing that can be done that will save the United States from considerable economic and financial damage.
Also appearing on Bloomberg TV Friday was J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, who said the country's got to finish the banking crisis, that it's time for regulators to put an end to turmoil in the banking industry. Though Dimon is already predicting policymakers will take away the wrong lessons from this year's upheaval. The 28-year-old automotive tech tycoon, Austin Russell, has acquired an 82% stake in Forbes Global Media Holdings, the parent of the well-known business magazine. The party said in a statement Friday the deal values the company at close to $800 million. The seller, Hong Kong-based Integrated Whale Media Investments, will retain a minority stake. The Forbes family will not, though Bloomberg reports Steve Forbes will remain involved. Global news 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Scott Carr, and this is Bloomberg. Now a check on Bloomberg Sports.
The Miami Heat eliminated the New York Knicks in 6 games with a 96-92 victory last night. Jimmy Butler led the Heat with 24 points and 8 rebounds. Jalen Brunson scored 41 for New York. The Heat play the winner of Celtics 76ers. In baseball, Anthony Rizzo homered twice. The Yankees defeated the Rays 6-5 at the stadium. Meanwhile, in D.C., Francisco Lindor hit a 3-run single to lift the Mets over the Nationals 3-2. Back to Bloomberg Sports, I'm Seth Everett.
The business of sports, where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
Hi, I'm Michael Barr. We'll talk about sports gambling controversies and the pay gap between women and men athletes. Join Scarlett Fu, Damian Sassower, and me when we speak with the chair of sports and entertainment at Mintz law firm, Steve Olenek.
Bloomberg Business of Sports, today at 11 a.m. on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Or listen on demand wherever you get your podcasts.
You wake up every morning with Bloomberg Surveillance. Now get even more with the Bloomberg Surveillance newsletter delivered to your inbox every weekday. This is Lisa Bromowitz. Our daily newsletter brings you in-depth market analysis, the charts we discussed in the show, plus the best on-air moments you may have missed with Tom Keene, Jonathan Farrow, and me. Sign up for the Bloomberg Surveillance newsletter today at Bloomberg.com/surveillance. That's Bloomberg.com/surveillance. May 23rd through the 25th, the Qatar Economic Forum powered by Bloomberg returns to Doha, convening voices that are spotlighting solutions to some of our most pressing global challenges. Speakers include CEOs from the Boeing Company, Miramax, VinFast, Blockchain.com, Sundance Institute, and more. Join over 500 international executives leading the conversations to put consumers and technology at the forefront and drive resilient economic growth into the next decade. Visit QatarEconomicForum.com to learn more. We don't just break news. We build perspective. Bloomberg publishes over 5,000 data-driven stories a day across multiple platforms, so you can gain insight and act with confidence. Ready to dive deeper? Start at Bloomberg.com/thinkbigger.
Bridge Bank helps breakthrough ideas actually break through and remains dedicated to providing financial solutions to the risk takers, the game changers, and the disruptors. Bridge Bank, a division of Western Alliance Bank. Bridge Bank. Be bold, venture wisely.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute.
Hit the door. It's Domino's.
Or don't. Domino's, a restaurant delivery pioneer, has seen demand for delivery cool over the past year. According to Domino's, some of that is a return to pre-pandemic dining habits, as in people are going out to restaurants more. But Domino's finance chief Sandeep Reddy gives an additional reason.
Constrained budgets for households with relatively lower disposable income, particularly when factoring the fees and tips.
So more customers are cooking at home instead, or avoiding delivery fees and tips by picking up their food orders themselves. McDonald's is predicting a delivery slowdown for the same reason. It also notes that customers on tight budgets are adding fewer items to their orders, in a way that the company seems to predict in this 2020 commercial.
If you're ordering McDonald's and your friend says they don't want fries, get them the fries.
But maybe don't ask them to pay. Tracy Johnson, Bloomberg Radio.
Bloomberg Radio, on demand and in your podcast feed.
On the latest edition of the Hit Podcast, a conversation with Robert Teeter of Silvercrest Asset Management. Whenever you saw the release from Secretary Yellen talking about the X date, making it June 1st and trying to get everyone focused in on June 1st as a deadline, there was also some language in there that indicated the fact that, well, it could be several weeks after that. And so you could have this rolling crisis situation where we push and push and push into June 1, don't get a resolution, and let it glide another couple of weeks, and then hope that, we get to those dates where more money comes in the door and the X date gets pushed out further. I think that's a pretty tough situation for markets because you'll just be looking at a rolling series of crises over coming weeks. I think if we don't get that resolution by June 1, we could be in for some real choppiness after that.
What do you do here? I mean, there's a lot of what-ifs out there, and most notably, I guess, this stuff about the debt ceiling, but there's a lot of cross-currents out there. How are you, when you talk to clients, how do you kind of frame out the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so I sort of start with the economy and where we are today, and I think we're running at about 1.5% growth. So I look at the real-time models, I look at mobility indicators, spending, and things like that. I think we're a little north of 1%. We have a pretty strong job market, and so that's consistent with that sort of stability as far as the economy is concerned. When you look out in the near term, though, we're certainly going to have some continued drag from the credit crunch and from the things going on in the banking sector. So there we've modeled that out. We looked at the 80s and 90s S&L crisis, very different, similar in terms of dollar amounts, but very dissimilar in terms of the 80s, 90s. You had hundreds of banks failing every year. And so we estimate something like 30% of stress of the 80s today. And to us, that leads to about a 1% GDP decline. So that gets us pretty close to that flat line of flat growth for coming quarters.
Hear the full conversation on the latest edition of the Tape Podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Plus, listen anytime on the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com. Broadcasting from the financial capital of the world, Bloomberg 1130 in New York. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Jim Stenevec from Bloomberg Radio.
Well, shares of Palantir Technologies soaring this past week after it reported earnings and unveiled its big plans for AI. CEO Alex Karp even outlined Palantir's artificial intelligence strategy by saying it wants to, quote, just take the whole market. The data analysis firm, co-founded by Peter Thiel, is seeing what it calls unprecedented demand for an AI platform that's due for release this month. For more on the company, the competition, and why it matters so much, Matt Miller and I caught up with Andrew McAfee, MIT scientist and Work Helix co-founder at the MIT Sloan School of Management, and Bloomberg News venture capital and startups reporter Lizette Chapman.
They did a surprise profit, and then they pivoted very quickly to talking about this AI platform that they say that they've been working on for the past several months. They will be releasing to select customers a little later this month, and then it will be available more broadly for their hundreds of customers in the months to come. Of course, their customers include some of the largest branches of the military here in the U.S., as well as that of our allies, along with a bunch of commercial customers. So that's driving the news.
Andy, let me ask you about what kind of worry this could be. When I read the Palantir story and I saw that they deal with very sensitive data, criminal databases, DMV records, phone data, and that they would be providing solutions, AI solutions to the military to dig through this data, as well as, other institutions, I thought it's a little bit scary. And then I saw the CEO's quote. Alex Karp, he says, the machine must remain subordinate to its creator, as if the alternative is even a possibility. You, Andy, wrote the book Race Against the Machine with my buddy John Brynjolfsson's brother Eric. Should we be worried about this AI, especially in the hands of a company like Palantir?
We should always be mindful when extraordinarily powerful new technologies come out. And generative AI is an extremely powerful new technology. One way to think about it is we have finally built a technology that understands this, that it's fluent in human languages. This is kind of wild, and we weren't expecting it. And Matt, like you point out, it can be used for all kinds of purposes. I'm actually optimistic. I think Palantir has a pretty long track record of safeguarding the sensitive information that it's given and of building very powerful technologies that normal human beings can work effectively with. I think it's an ideal match for this new category of generative AI, which is all about letting us do this and interact with huge amounts of data.
This is why I wanted to also to talk to you, because I feel like we need to be rational as we talk about AI, because I feel like there's a lot of folks out there saying, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. Andy, what is the smart conversation? As you say, there's lots of data